Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. Special episode today where we are recapping on Saturday WWE Smackdown. I'm joined by my host, Dom Scarcella. Dom, tell the people about yourself.
Hey, we're a day late, but we're a day late for a good reason. The WWE draft is going on, and they did not finish the SmackDown portion of the draft until today, Saturday. So we're recapping the April, excuse me, April 28th edition of SmackDown, and we're also talking the first half of the WWE draft. So without further ado, a lot to talk about. John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from this week in SmackDown and WWE?
Dom, we don't ever want to bury the lead. We don't bury the lead on this show. And
We
let
do
me
not.
tell you, the lead is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn going over the Usos in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively clean finish. I'd say ultimately a clean finish. The
Yes.
first main event where we haven't seen a ton of crap happening in it, and we just had a
Yes.
regular match that was good, and we had a finish here. So, Dom, what did you think of this main event?
Your point about it being a clean finish, I'm very glad they did that, and they almost had to because the WrestleMania match was so great that it really would have tarnished it if the rematch turned into nonsense. So this was a fantastic for TV, a fantastic match. Um, they were teasing it all night that the Usos were going to have to go out there without Solo Sikoa,
Mm-hmm.
but then they cut away late in the match to backstage, and there's Paul Heyman on the phone, and he's talking to someone, probably Roman Reigns, whose presence looms large, even though he's been off of TV since WrestleMania.
Right.
And he tells Solo, "Tonight is your night." And Solo walks out to the ring. And when he appears at the entranceway and starts walking down the ramp, Kevin Owens notices him, and that becomes really the only interference, although it was just interference visually. It wasn't like Solo got into the ring because Matt Riddle comes flying out from nowhere and starts fighting Solo Sikoa. And so those two fight off of the entranceway, sort of into the nether regions of the arena. So they never actually interfere in the match. And like you're saying, we get a clean finish. The Usos are double teaming KO with Sami out on the floor, double super kick on Kevin Owens, but they only get a 2.5 count. The Usos go for the 1D, but Sami, who finally recovers, pulls Jay out to the floor, and they start fighting out there. That allows KO to get a stunner on Jimmy, who staggers into the corner. Kevin Owens then gets a hot tag to Sami, who comes in for a haluva kick and pins Jimmy, just like at WrestleMania. It was Sami with the haluva kick to pin Jay. Now, haluva kick to pin Jimmy. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn retain the belts. So it wasn't going to be just, a flip flop, swap the belts back and forth. And great match, does a lot to move stories forward, and maybe we ought to go there because they've been teasing that the Usos really had to win this to perhaps win back being in the good graces of the tribal chief, the head of the table, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, who is still on vacation, but should be coming back soon. Um, so this now puts it in the balance. Okay, what are they going to do about the Usos? And we'll get into some draft talk a little bit later because this plays into how the WWE has structured the draft.
Yeah. Um,
So do you want to go match or do you want to go story here? Because it was a pretty good match.
I just had, in my notes here about the match, uh, just 2 points really. One,
Okay.
and I said it in the lead spiel, we finally get a main event where there's a clean finish.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to lie, maybe as of last week, I was getting a little sick of it.
Yes,
We've
me
been
too.
watching main events that were huge guys, like Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso, which could be a title match on SummerSlam or WrestleMania. And you're like, oh man, it's the main event tonight. And they're doing all the moves and they're working a good match, and then suddenly there's interference and it doesn't count for this and this reason. I think that's pretty lazy typically when they do that. I'd rather just see two guys going for the IC title or now the US title or some mid-card title or some sort of feud that is getting resolved in the main event of a TV show. So I'm glad that there was a finish, and this really puts over Sami and Kevin right now. So
yes,
it doesn't look like it's going to be a hot potato thing with the titles. Like they're hot potato back to the Usos. Second thing, I like the Usos playing off, like really working heel. And by working heel, I mean they trap Kevin Owens in the corner and they're doing real boring stuff like whacking his knee up against the post. And then they tag out and then they have him corner and they're just doing boring holds up against the post. And I like when heels do boring moves and the crowd starts to boo because they're not too excited with the style of wrestling, as well as, they're kind of double teaming and being cheap, which is always interesting. Like teamwork for some reason sometimes can be heelish.
It is, and that kind of teamwork, it's good tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
That's what you would expect the Usos to do. They're a tag team. They've done this before. They're the record-setting tag team. So yeah, they're doing good tag team work. I'm impressed with Jimmy's improvement on the mic. This was always such a great team. We graded them out as A's when we did our year-end grading for 2022. But Jimmy's gotten more interesting now, and I like him. I like Jay. I like where they are. I like that they're teasing some tension, not only within the Usos and have been for a couple of months now, a few months, but also within the whole bloodline. And now everybody can kind of step up and participate in that. It's not just, Roman and Jay having the spat. Jimmy's in there, and now they're trying to, we talked about last week how they're even trying to let Solo Sikoa have more of a personality. He got to speak on the mic a little bit. He's jawing more and trash talking audibly to the audience when he's in a match. Not just doing, yells and screams, but trash talking his opponents. So they're trying to set up where each of these guys can participate in whatever storyline twist that they have coming up. So I think it bodes well. This was a great main event all around.
Yeah, I think
story-wise in ring
in a while. Yeah,
this is the best one we've had in a while because we've had this story angle, this bloodline versus Sami and KO, and then Matt Riddle for a while. And like you said, this is the first time in a while that they let them have a clean match.
And you could just see Sami Zayn so over still because he gets the hot tag and the crowd freaked out. Yes. And he's doing all the babyface moves that are good. And Kevin Owens, he's just kind of steadying everything. Like he makes sense with Sami Zayn, but Sami Zayn's going to be the star, I feel like, moving forward. And there was one spot which was kind of reminding me of, if you can remember, Scott Hall versus the Heartbreak Kid in the ladder match. And it's really, really, it's got Vince written all over it. But like Scott Hall, or I guess it was Razor Ramon at the time, like pulls his pants down and his ass is exposed. Shawn Michaels' ass is exposed. And the crowd goes crazy. But Sami did something similar to that where he yanked him by his pants. And it's like, it was like a pretty good comedy face spot where he like yanked him back and like didn't expose anything. We don't need to see that, but kind of a unique.
Did it to Jay. Yeah, Jay was going to run off the ropes, and Sami held on to the tights.
Mm-hmm. I don't
To,
know if
to
that was a
prevent it.
botch or if that was planned, but the crowd popped for it.
That's got to be part of it, right? Like
Right.
that kind of thing doesn't happen by accident.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that'd be too difficult to to do by accident.
And
But yeah,
especially two guys of that caliber in the ring. I mean, this isn't a Ronda Rousey in there or somebody that can't work.
it's not rookies that don't know what they're doing. Like, yeah, this is Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. They know what
very
they're doing.
seasoned veterans. But yeah, overall good match. Anything else you want to talk about here with the main event?
Once again, Jey Uso very impressive. He does this leaping super kick as Sami Zayn is climbing the ropes that sends Sami all the way to the floor. This is going into the second commercial. Like, just what a move! What an athlete for Jay to be able to do that. Like you're super kicking a guy who's up on the ropes. So impressive there with Jay. Kevin Owens, I do think it's interesting, like you said, that they're having Sami be the guy who gets all these hot tags rather than Sami be the guy that gets beat up and has to make the hot tag. It's Kevin Owens who wrestling wise has a more substantial pedigree. He's been a world title holder, I believe, right?
Yes.
So he's the bigger star within the wrestling world from a what have you done titles wise, big main event wise, and yet the hot tags go into Sami, and Sami's getting the finishes. So that's neat. Like you're saying, Sami really is over. And even though he's in the ring with guys who have better pedigrees than him, and I don't mean the Triple H move, like they've got better wrestling pedigrees than him. Sami's the star, and I have to tell you, I marked out when Sami hit the haluva kick and pinned Jimmy.
Right.
Like, and it was a mark out for several reasons. Number one, because it's Sami and he's wonderful. Number two, it's because we got a clean finish. I'm like, oh wow, it was an actual pinfall without interference. So that was mark out worthy. And also because they're not, like you said, hot potatoing the title back and forth. So great match, great main event. More to talk about related to that when we get into the draft, I'm sure. But I have nothing else about the match in particular. It was a great main event, great to see. Really wonderful capstone to this SmackDown.
For sure. Yeah.
Where next, my friend? We only had 4 matches because they were doing the drafting. So we've only got 3 other matches. Do you want to go draft, or do you want to talk about one of the other matches here?
I do have a second topic in mind here.
Okay.
And it is going to be kind of a buzzkill, but Gunther gets drafted by WWE Raw, so the Raw brand. So he is off the show that we watch every week, and he has been our favorite and our foundational person where as long as Gunther's wrestling a match on the show, it's okay. It's watchable. Like if a show's ever a clunker, it's like, oh, well, no Gunther. So no good wrestling because he's always a guaranteed good wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what do you think? Gunther off the show.
The WWE draft, it looks like they're trying to, I mean, for now at least, stick to having more distinction between the 2 shows and splitting the talent. I mean, I wonder how hard and fast they'll stick to that rule. But yeah, if this means that Gunther's not going to be on SmackDown anymore, big loss. Like that's the biggest loss. That's the biggest news out of the draft is that, yeah, we're not going to see Gunther. I'm going to miss him. In fact, Gunther got drafted to Raw with all of Imperium. I'm going to miss Ludwig Kaiser.
Right.
I
He
like
was
him.
kind of
I'm
taking
gonna
up.
miss him and Giovanni Vinci. You know, they're a good tag team. They work well. Let's not forget that Gunther has been on the main roster since April 8th of last year. He's barely a rookie. He was still a rookie technically at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So Gunther needed a lot to develop. Let's not overlook the fact that Ludwig Kaiser was ready and polished right away, and that him being in Imperium helped Gunther significantly as a guy who could talk for the group, as a guy who could talk for Gunther for a while before Gunther sort of got his sea legs under him in a sense, got his promo legs under him. I'm gonna miss Ludwig Kaiser. I'm gonna miss all of Imperium, man. There's not a weak link in that bunch. They're great talkers. When Gunther wrestles, it's a fantastic match and Gunther wins. When Imperium wrestles, it's a fantastic match and they lose. So and we can talk more about some people they're losing, but it always sticks out to me when a show is going to lose somebody who's fantastic, even if they don't win matches.
yeah,
Those are important cogs in a show. Imperium, all of Imperium is a big loss for SmackDown.
yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have to see how it pans out because I mean, last year at the end of this draft, who knows if this is what this even really means? Because I mean, like Gunther was wrestling on both shows pretty frequently, and
okay.
the Usos were wrestling on both shows and making appearances on both shows, and Roman Reigns. So, and Cody, we saw him on SmackDown wrestling. So I don't really know if this is one of these things where there's the NFL draft, they're trying to capitalize on the NFL
Absolutely.
draft,
I thought of the same thing.
and they make up these things, and then they don't really matter in like a month or two. You know, you have people going back and forth between the two brands, and it's just sort of like a cheap way to play off of the NFL draft, as well as what can actually. I would say this: it's a cheap way to play off the NFL draft that nothing ever really seems to materialize between the two shows. Like they're both employed by WWE. Both shows, one is 2 hours, one is 3 hours. They're practically identical outside of the fact is one has red lighting, one has blue lighting. Like there
Yes.
isn't. It's not like a. If you switch to AEW, you could see a significant difference in the way that they produce the show.
Okay.
Even NXT, but NXT because it's in a warehouse with 100 people, like a TV studio almost, and they've got lighting in the back to make it seem like there's more fans than there are. So that's a different aspect of it. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much the draft's going to matter. But let's go through the draft. We just mentioned Gunther and the Imperium. They're out. They're on the Raw brand. But who was selected onto SmackDown?
Well, it's a fun thing. I think the draft, and I think the draft is good to do to follow up your point, because they do kind of split the talent anyway, because they have so much talent. Like we don't see everybody on both programs, and so we, as watching SmackDown, we've gotten used to some people that we see more frequently. Title holders should be on both shows, especially if you win unified titles. The Usos should have been on both shows. They were the tag team champs of both brands. Now Sami and KO are the tag team champs of both brands. They should be on both. Roman Reigns, as soon as he unified the belts, he should have been on both brands. He's the champion for each one. So I don't have much of a problem with that. I think the WWE, this is one of those things where you might as well. You're going to split your talent anyway to try and give each show some personality. So you might as well play it up as like there's a WWE draft. Tie in with the NFL this time of year. It's right after WrestleMania. It's a good reset for a lot of storylines. It's fantastic, and I think they did the draft itself. It's cool to watch. They have guys come out and announce the draft picks. It's cool. Like they don't just throw the names up on the screen. They play it up like it's a draft.
Did you see? Speaking of our area locally, Rob Van Dam,
I
the
did.
old ECW champ, and I mean he's still kind of doing some stuff, but he's probably most famous at this point for just all the shoot stuff on YouTube. Just look up Rob
Okay.
Van Dam shoot interviews.
Really?
He
Okay.
really he's almost like the Iron Sheik, but not too intoxicated. Where he just goes in on people.
Okay.
Yeah, he talks about slapping Taz in the back. He said, "Pick a hand" to him. And, Taz picked the hand. He slapped him with that hand, and stuff because he's very relaxed and chill and stoner dude. But you can see he's got like a pretty big edge to him at some point. But all the gossip back room or back locker room stuff he'll usually talk about on the different shoot interviews.
Really?
But yeah, so we got to see Rob Van Dam, and was he with God, man,
Michael P.S. Hayes, who's I was surprised that they announced him as Michael P.S. Hayes. Because when he was in WWE, he had a different name, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. He was somebody else.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but yeah, Michael P.S. Hayes, he was part of the Fabulous Freebirds. Yeah, I remember him. I don't know exactly who all the Freebirds were. I think was it Jimmy Jam Garvin and Terry Gordy. But yeah, it was three guys, and the Freebird rules were that any two of them could be in a tag team and defend the titles. Yeah, I remember Michael P.S. Hayes, and good for them for letting him use Michael P.S. Hayes as he comes out. That was interesting. They of course were announcing the second round of the draft. Triple H announced the first round. And if you want to go through that, each round of the draft included each brand making two selections. So the number one draft pick went to SmackDown, and it was the Bloodline, but not all of them. It was Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman drafted as kind of one unit. No Uso brothers.
Mm.
And it wasn't just Roman and Heyman or just Roman. It was Roman, Heyman, and Solo Sikoa. So they're locking Solo in with Roman here.
Yeah.
And with Heyman. What an interesting number one pick for me. Raw then, number one pick, Cody Rhodes. Which, you in some ways you figure if you were actually doing a draft, Cody's a big star. You'd want him. But it also seems to be like it's going to keep Cody and Roman apart until maybe they hit a pay-per-view. Or
Right.
unless they relax the brand, the wall between the brands for title holders, especially if you have, if you're a big title holder. Then draft 1A for SmackDown was Bianca Belair, the Raw Women's Champion, who apparently gets to keep the Raw Women's Champion coming over to SmackDown. I don't know what that is. Great pick. Bianca's awesome. She had a great WrestleMania match. 1A for Raw was Becky Lynch, which is surprising because she's been off TV for a few weeks. She doesn't have a belt. She had a very brief tag team run with Lita, but that ended on the Trish Stratus backstab move. So Becky, a curious pick there. And then round two, where you're talking about Rob Van Dam and Michael P.S. Hayes come out. The Street Profits, SmackDown's number 2 draft pick with the Street Profits. Okay. And then Raw picks all of Imperium. And I went, oh. If this is a real draft, John, you're drafting Gunther as soon as you can, right?
Yeah, you go Cody Rhodes. Yeah, who's deciding this pick? It's a terrible pick. You go Profits over Gunther. Yeah, unless there's something I'm missing here.
It's just a way to. I mean, they're trying to give the best guys top billing at some point, but Yeah, I mean, Gunther's my number one pick.
Dom, last night, it's interesting. They went head to head with the NFL draft. So
Okay.
I was watching the NFL draft. I'm a huge Eagles fan. So
Okay.
I'm watching the NFL draft, and I'm thinking the whole time, why is WWE doing this draft thing, going head to head with the NFL draft? Like, they must be getting crushed in the ratings because the NFL draft's on. The NFL is rules, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is all the TV ratings go to the NFL. So
Right.
I thought it was interesting that they would do the draft during the NFL draft. I guess they have no choice, but I would have thought maybe they would do it a week ahead of time because there is a lot of buzz about the NFL draft, and you're not going directly up against it.
Yes.
But maybe this is just the way the cards fell, where they typically will do the draft on Monday nights and Friday nights, and the NFL draft used to be on Saturday and only Saturday and Sunday. So
I remember those days sitting on the couch.
yeah, it was like a 1 p.m. Saturday. Who's the first? And yeah, the number one overall pick in the NFL is always they do it so well. The NFL, they have the heat. Now they go from city to city, and there's 150,000 people there, like outside watching this, and it's a big rock concert, and you're just like, wow, they can't get anything wrong, the NFL. But anyways, enough about the NFL. I just thought it was interesting. WWE went up against it, but
that's why they did it. I mean, they're totally trying to, they did the World Cup tournament during the World Cup. They do the WWE draft during the NFL draft.
And for us, it might be cool. I mean, I know we lose Gunther, but we can see some new people. Like the Street Profits. Maybe they're good. I don't know. I've never really watched them.
They are pretty good. They had a match we'll get to a little later. The SmackDown also drafts Edge in the second round. So Edge apparently not retired.
Yeah.
Which is good. And it makes what he's been doing at the pay-per-views, I guess, seem more important because he is going to come back and try to be a full-time wrestler. Good for him. Raw, after drafting Imperium, goes for Matt Riddle. Okay.
We've seen
Matt Riddle's in the second round.
And we've seen him in the main event back-to-back SmackDown. So you figured they were trying to build something with the SmackDown, but no, he's going to be off now.
He's going to be on Raw now.
Main event, like surprise entrance, he's back. Main event. Oh, he's off the show now. So watch him on Raw.
You wonder where this extra man, and maybe they won't need this anymore if the Usos are sort of out of the bloodline. Maybe this whole United Bloodline thing finishes up at Backlash. Who knows? By the way, we were told the Raw and SmackDown draft and splitting of the talent that doesn't go into effect until after Backlash. So we get to go through the pay-per-view with the current alignments and the current storylines and everything. So that'll be we've got another week of Matt Riddle. We've got another week of Gunther. We've got one more week of Gunther. There better be the greatest Gunther party next Friday.
I want to see him go 60 minutes. I want him in an Iron Man match.
Absolutely. Like the entire 9 o'clock hours just be Gunther against I don't care who. Gunther in a gauntlet match. Just keep feeding him people. Like his own personal Royal Rumble. Like so back to the draft. That's what we get from the first two rounds. Third round, SmackDown gets Bobby Lashley. Okay, I'd like to see Bobby Lashley. Raw gets Drew McIntyre. Not gonna lie, he's been off TV for a few weeks. I haven't missed him.
Yeah, I haven't
missed him. We gave him and Sheamus a C when we did our grades because he said, look, they belong on TV, but if they're off TV, you don't miss them. I haven't missed Drew McIntyre. He's on Raw now. Okay. SmackDown then, to finish up round 3, drafts the entire OC. AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and someone named Michin, who we did see, I think, in the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble. I'm excited most of all for AJ Styles here. So yeah, we lose Gunther, but we're picking up AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley. Just another kind of point about SmackDown here in the draft. They're picking up a lot of teams and factions.
Yeah.
It drafts the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Then SmackDown drafts the Street Profits. Then they draft the OC. A little later, SmackDown for round 4, which was the last round we saw on TV, they draft Damage Control, all of them. Then they draft the NXT Women's Tag Champions, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of factions going to SmackDown, whereas Raw is going Cody Rhodes, Becky Lynch. Yes, they draft all of Imperium, but then they draft Matt Riddle, Drew McIntyre, The Miz. Okay? The guy that got crushed by Snoop Dogg at WrestleMania. He's a round 3 draft choice for Raw. They draft Shinsuke Nakamura. And then they draft the NXT Women's Champ, Indy Hartwell. Okay, so Raw's drafting a lot of singles, and SmackDown's drafting a lot of teams and factions.
Yeah.
Now, once they get to Lowdown, things switch. They announce on Lowdown that SmackDown only gets really 2 picks for the Lowdown portion. In Raw, on the other hand, drafted, are you ready for this? The Viking Raiders, Candice LeRae, Dexter Lumis, all of the Maximum Male models, including their valet.
Still in the company.
Natalya, yes. Maximum Male model still going. They drafted Natalya, Apollo Crews, 2 people from NXT, Zoe Stark and JD McDonough. They drafted Chelsea Green, and they drafted someone else I'm going to be sad to see leave SmackDown. John, I'm not kidding here. I will be sorry to see Sonya Deville go.
Sonya, yeah.
Sonya Deville is a valuable wrestler on SmackDown, and we'll talk about her later in this review because she was on this show wrestling. Sonya Deville is valuable. People who are well-developed characters, who are good on TV, who can instigate, and who can be fantastic without winning matches are so valuable. I will be sad to see Sonya Deville off of SmackDown. And it also tells you where SmackDown has to now develop talent.
Yeah,
we need somebody like Gunther who's going to be a shoo-in to have a great match every week. We need people like Ludwig Kaiser, who's fantastic on the mic and who can be a brat and who can be in these matches in the mid-card. We're going to need someone who can really develop the women's division by instigating and not always winning, like Sonya Deville. So SmackDown is kind of laying out for you what they have to do because of who they lost and who Raw got. And I guess we'll talk about that before I tell you who SmackDown drafted during the Lowdown portion. But anything else from those names that were announced as going to Lowdown, that long list that sticks out to you?
Well,
Candice LeRae, Dexter Lumis, we don't really see them. Apollo Crews, we don't see them. The 2 people from NXT, we don't see them. It's basically people we know from SmackDown would be the Viking Raiders, Sonya Deville, Chelsea Green, Natalya, and some of the Maximum Male models. We saw them for a little while.
Well, I always like Natalya. So she's played that role where she's just solid mid-card, has been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
And has almost been in the same position forever, where she can have a solid, okay match all of the time. So with that consistency from her, you're gonna miss that. But hopefully, maybe she has a little bit more. It's interesting to see her on Raw. I don't know, but I'd say Sonya, to echo your point. She's done a good job putting other people over, which is her job now. Mm-hmm. It's just to get some other people over. So she's done a good job with that. Nothing much more to add. Who did SmackDown gain?
Okay, SmackDown only had 2 draft picks on the Lowdown this morning. They drafted Lacey Evans.
Okay.
Who we've seen, so maybe that means that they have more in mind for Lacey Evans. And they had 1 other draft pick. I want you to guess who SmackDown drafted. It's people who've been on SmackDown. This is a wrestler or wrestlers who've been on SmackDown before, and they were drafted. So SmackDown is
this boy? I already forget their names. Is this the guy that botched the dive?
Hit Row!
Oh my! Is it B-Fab? Is the other one B-Fab?
B-Fab is the valet. It's Adonis and Top Dollar. They made a
Dollar.
point of announcing that they were drafted by SmackDown.
I thought they were going to be thank you for your service. You know,
Right? They're still with the company. Like, good for them for getting another chance. I hope they can do something with it. But surprising to me that they made the point of saying that, yeah, Hit Row is not only still around, but they're drafted to SmackDown.
Michael Cole is pretty straight and to the point all the time with his announcing. The only person that he buries is what's his name?
Top Dollar.
Top Dollar.
He had been doing that.
He just keeps trashing him. Anytime he's out there, and I mean, he deserves to get trashed. He's not good, but he it's like he's really rubbing it in. It's to a point where you're like, okay, we get it. Top Dollar's horrible. Like he can't wrestle. He shouldn't be out there, but he's still signed. And leave him alone, right? We're bullying him a little too much at this point.
Or let Wade Barrett do that. Wade Barrett's the heel announcer, the color guy.
Michael Cole's weighing in, and this little wiener is like burying him. Then you're like, okay, come on, let up on the poor guy. But yeah. So Top Dollar. Well, can't wait to see what they have in line for Top Dollar. Is he going to be going after the titles?
Right. That one was a puzzler to me, but if they have something in mind for them and they can do it, then let's see it. They've been off of TV for a while, and I haven't missed them.
Right.
Like I've kind of missed Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I haven't missed Drew. I haven't missed Hit Row.
Right. So, what's the next match you wanted to pivot to? We went through the WWE draft, and that's probably going to be the biggest thing to talk about from the show, the biggest takeaway. But
we'll talk about it next week too, because I have to finish the draft on Raw this coming Monday.
Yeah, and we can
maybe still a lot to talk. Do you want to go to a match that involved one of the people we talked about in our draft rundown, or do you want to go elsewhere to either a backstage thing or the match that did not involve anyone who was up on this half of the draft?
I'll skip ahead here.
Okay.
I was happy to see finally L.A. Knight get a victory.
Yep, over Butch.
Yeah, Butch. He's done some stuff with NXT UK. He's been in the Brawling Brutes.
Yep.
For a while. Always pretty good stuff out of him. He's just a little smaller for a WWE guy, but always pretty good in the ring work. He does really cool manipulation of the fingers, which is something that nobody else does besides him. Which is always great. So
you mentioned NXT. Do you remember, was he Pete Dunne in NXT?
Yeah, Pete
He
Dunne.
had a huge feud with Walter. Gunther. Like, so they know each other well. Do you remember him at all from NXT? I don't, but he apparently had a great reputation for the work he did in NXT, and especially with the now Gunther.
So I don't know if this is defunct, but they tried NXT UK. And I might have watched maybe 30 minutes of one of the shows once, because they were trying to replicate what they did with NXT and the success they had there in the US, in the UK. And I'm not sure that it took off, or I don't know much about it, but I know Volta came from there. And that's really the best thing that could have happened, right? But UK's just kind of dipping into the UK indie scene. I don't know if it still exists or not, but I know that I'd seen Pete Dunne wrestle, but I can't really remember when. But I know that it was like maybe sifting through some NXT stuff, because I always watch the NXT pay-per-views, because they'd only have 3 or 4, and I actually went to one in the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, and that was a crazy crowd. And I'd been to other wrestling matches, but the NXT crowds are kind of like the AEW just saw what NXT was doing, and they shifted it over, and we're like, we're the AEW is now NXT, and that's what what they kind of are now, where you kind of the target market's different. It's over 18 male. That's all it really is for AEW and NXT at the time.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, anyways, I kind of went on a tangent there, but
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I've never really seen Pete Dunne, but I have seen Butch now several times, and I like what he's doing. But let's not bury the lead here. LA Knight with the victory.
Gets the win with the blunt force trauma. That's his snapmare inverted DDT.
Mm-hmm.
Gets the pinfall, clean win. Sheamus comes out with Butch, no Ridge Holland, but Sheamus comes out with him. But then Sheamus goes to the back, or if he was at ringside, I did not notice him. He was not part of the match, which was good. We just got a good match. Did the timing look off to you between these two in a few spots? It looked off to me.
Yeah, I know it wasn't the best match in the world. Just from my perspective, seemed a little awkward. And LA Knight at times has kind of looked awkward in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
In certain spots. I don't know if it's because he's older or slower or nervous or what's going on, but he can sometimes look a little shaky in there.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's all really good, that all the stuff I see from him. But, you could nitpick certain things. Any spots in particular that you saw, or?
I do like I didn't write down some of the things that I thought were botchy, but I'm just picturing there were a few things in my mind that looked slow developing because they're both pretty quick, aggressive workers.
Mm-hmm.
So when things kind of look slow and deliberate, like they're trying too hard to go through the maneuvers of a move or something, you're like, okay, they're not as confident in what they're doing. There were a couple of looked like Irish whips that just they weren't sure what to do. There were a couple other sequences that and because it looked like it wasn't executed very well, I don't exactly know what to call it. But I mean, the finish looked good. LA Knight meeting Butch up on top and hitting that superplex for a 2 count looked great. So the big spots in the match all looked good. Butch got to do the finger things, and he's stepping on his elbow and on his hand, and so he's doing all the stuff that you expect Butch to do, all the kind of heelish stuff that for some reason Butch gets cheered for.
Yeah.
But a neat little match. LA Knight gets a clean win, so good for him. And just to follow up what you were saying about the UK NXT, if NXT is supposed to be developmental, then UK NXT, it may not have lasted long as a series, but wow, did it do its job. They found Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser. They may have also found Giovanni Vinci there, and it looks like they found Butch. So if all your developmental stuff does is find 4 guys who belong in the big leagues on TV, that's a pretty good farm system.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think regular NXT has turned off 4 guys that caliber, have they?
Yeah.
Not 4. But then again, I don't know.
All the good guys from NXT typically were from the indies. So they put them on from the indies. They're in NXT. They're ready to go. They put them up.
Okay.
Ricochet's from the indies. Seth Rollins from the indies.
Okay.
All these guys are pretty much Ring of Honor. Samoa Joe, he's gone, but Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn.
Okay.
The list goes on and on. Roman Reigns is the only one that actually got trained in the WWE farm system. That's one I
Wow. Okay.
That's where and that's all he's done. And so I don't think he's particularly the greatest worker in the world. I don't think he's necessarily Roman Reigns, but he's way over now. He's done his thing, so I don't want to trash him. So yeah, LA Knight gets a win. Hopefully he gets a push. Next match here, we see the OC getting a W.
The Street Profits, the new guys. Or do you want to go to that in-ring promo with the OC?
Oh, I'm sorry. That yeah.
Because we did see the OC. They came out. It was neat.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Let's. I botched here. the Street Profits get a W. So we have the Street Profits. They're new to SmackDown and they're getting a win. What did you think about this match, Dom?
A little too much like the WrestleMania finish of the men's tag team showcase, where Ricochet hits a big move on Angelo Dawkins, but Montez Ford had blind tagged himself in, and Montez Ford with the surprise splash on Ricochet for a pinfall.
Yeah, weird because they've been building Ricochet and Braun, and then Street Profits come in and get the W.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're just thinking, because was the LWO also?
Yes, that was neat. And Legado del Fantasma is done. That is done. These guys are just the LWO now.
Yeah.
It's not just shirts. Like they're announced as the LWO. They're the LWO. Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde.
We're gonna get a SmackDown in Puerto Rico this Friday.
We are.
So I'm really actually looking forward to that. Just to see something in a different area. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll be different. Maybe it'll be some sort of different show, a different style of fan. We saw
Montreal was that way.
Montreal was like, is this a WWE show? They're crazy, these people, So
right before Elimination Chamber, because they're traveling out of the country, you might as well put SmackDown in the same place or very close to it that the pay-per-view is on Saturday. Yeah. So we saw that in Montreal. Maybe Puerto Rico. That's what Puerto Rico has to live up to, right? They've got Montreal as the bar. They're going, okay, we got to be into this so that people remember Puerto Rico, the double dip of SmackDown and the pay-per-view, the way they remember Montreal for that great SmackDown crowd and that great Elimination Chamber crowd. So, Puerto Rico is on the clock since we're doing the draft motif. Puerto Rico is on the clock after what Montreal showed us a couple of months ago. So, Street Profits, other than the finish and the fact that the Street Profits get the win here, anything stick out to you about this match? And this was right after they were announced as a draft pick as coming to SmackDown. So they came out for a little, mic work, and then it was, hey, we got a triple threat tag team match. You are still muted, sir.
Nothing really sticks out.
Okay.
I'd have to say it's good to see the LWO. Hopefully they continue to build them. Hopefully there's some sort of momentum going there because I like what they have going for them. I guess.
What about format?
What?
What about format? It's a triple threat tag team match. I've never seen that before. Where three guys, one guy from each team is a legal competitor at each time. I've never seen that. Have you seen that before?
I don't think so. I don't. Okay. Nothing that was that memorable. And to be honest with you, this match wasn't necessarily super memorable, so I don't really have a ton of my notes about it. So maybe there'll be a really memorable one day, but I don't have a bunch more to add here.
No. You mentioned that how interesting or whatever that the Street Profits come in and here they are drafted to SmackDown and they get a win right on this show and over Ricochet and Braun Strowman. If Ricochet and Braun Strowman stay on SmackDown, maybe they're trying to build a rivalry.
Yeah, it could be something where are they both faces? Yeah, they're both baby faces, but
they seem to be. But the WWE doesn't seem to have a problem with baby faces. Everybody was a baby face in this match. That's the other thing I had for a note.
Yeah.
Triple threat tag match between three baby face teams. Okay. Decent match in the ring, decent work. I mean, lots of acrobatics. Little bit of a comedy spot with Braun Strowman wanting to launch Ricochet onto all the other competitors on the floor. And apparently they had done this the previous match or whatever. I'm remembering vaguely, and it did not work. And so they're doing the spot in the ring where Ricochet's like, no, I don't want to do that. And Braun's like, I got you, like pleading with, like, I will throw you properly onto the other people this time. And Ricochet, he relents. He makes the sign of the cross. He runs off the ropes. And sure enough, Braun tosses him onto all the other 4 wrestlers on the floor, and that goes to the commercial break. It worked. A little bit of comedy, a little bit of kind of redemption in case that was a botch previously. So good for them for having a sense of humor about it and for doing a neat spot. But other than that, not much for me there. There's some backstage segments and one more in-ring match. Which do you want to talk about next here?
Let's go with the in-ring match.
Zelina Vega versus Sonya Deville with Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green doing a little jawing interference, but not getting himself involved physically in the match. Other than that, pretty clean match. Zelina Vega winds up winning.
And this
Rolls
is where
up
Sonya
Sonya for a pinfall.
This is where Sonya Deville is so valuable, right?
Yes.
Because she kind of can face anybody and put on a solid match, and the right person wins. I mean, hey, it's kind of
going to the pay-per-view.
It's predictable where we're headed here.
Yeah.
Selena is going to get a shot in Puerto Rico, in her hometown, against Rhea Ripley. I think the writing's on the wall. What's going to happen here, because Rhea Ripley's performed so well with the belt, but she's going to get the shot at the hometown. So you'll see Rhea really being booed because she's going to be the hometown hero. Hopefully.
Yeah, she's a heel for at least one more week, right?
Yeah.
She was kind of heelish here, though, because there wasn't a lot of notes from the match. You're right. Sonya Deville was obviously going to lose this match. And yet it was a pretty entertaining match. I mean, there weren't a lot of spots to talk about, but the finish happens when Sonya misses Zelina's been floored, and she's kind of in that seated position, a little dazed. Sonya goes for off the ropes, and she's going to level her with a kick to the jaw. And Zelina kind of limbos it. She ducks back, and Sonya misses the kick. And then as Sonya comes back around, Zelina rolls her up for the pinfall. Neat little spot there for a win. And then suddenly, who enters the ring? Rhea Ripley, and just decks Zelina from behind. Right. And then Sonya, for some reason, gets in Rhea's face. And so Rhea just headbutts Sonya Deville, and Sonya Deville's just out. And of course, there's Chelsea Green seeing this, and she wants no part of it. So the heels want no part of Rhea, and then Rhea turns around to focus on Zelina again and goes to get her up in the riptide. And then what happens here? Zelina counters, slithers through, and DDTs her. Right. And then while Rhea is kind of gathering herself on the mat, rolling around and regaining her senses, Zelina backtracks it up the entrance ramp there, to cheers from the crowd. Neat to have them face off for each other. So a lot happens in this short match, right? Zelina gets a win. She gets to confront Rhea Ripley in a way that makes Rhea look like the monster, but also Zelina look like the Rey Mysterio type of women's wrestler who maybe has a chance if she can be, quick enough. It just takes 3 seconds, they kept saying. Just takes 3 seconds, that's all. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I mean, a lot about this match, exciting wise, other than, it's maybe the swan song for Sonya Deville on SmackDown for a while.
Oh, yeah. I think that's it for Sonya. She'll be off, and she's done a pretty good job. Selena looks pretty good in there. And I will have to say, I like her look. It's wild with all the different multi-hair colors that she's going for now. I don't think it was. I think it was exactly what it needed to be. You want to see Selena Gomez in a match. Or excuse me, Selena
Vega.
See, I need to know her name too.
Yes. Selena Gomez is someone. She doesn't wrestle though.
Yes, I am mixing up Selena Vega,
the singer. Yes,
Gomez,
which I have done also until I saw the spelling of Zelina for Zelina Vega. It's totally different. So now just picturing the word differentiates them. But yes, I have done the Selena Gomez as well.
Yeah, that is the Selena I know, and it's similar enough to the name that I've been referring to her as that. So anyway, Selena Vega, she is they build her up. Okay, she gets a win. She has a little momentum. You see who the hell she is. So you could see in the pay-per-view who are we getting, because we haven't seen much of her at all outside of just being a valet. So it's
Mhm.
it's a pretty random person, quite frankly, to be in a title match. But
Yes.
I think
She was in Royal Rumble. She was in the Women's Royal Rumble. Had a few good moments in there, but like ultimately was not involved in
he
anywhere
was
near the finish.
he was an advertisement in the Royal Rumble for some video game for Street
Okay.
Fighter, because she cosplayed as somebody, and then went in and got like, and then that's I remember her being an advert.
Okay. Huh.
So not really established at all, but
No.
we'll see. What
Clearly a Rey Mysterio type. I mean, she's small. She's not just short, but she has a small frame. So she is a small wrestler. She's going to have to be acrobatic and quick, even to just put on a believable match in the ring. But so far, she looks like she can do that. So I wonder if it'll play it all against someone as massive and powerful as Rhea Ripley. But that's for that's for another week. For this SmackDown, decent match against Sonya. Who Sonya, we will miss you. She's
Yeah,
good. She does her job. She's important. When Sonya's not on TV, you miss her. And will be an important role on SmackDown to be filled by whoever steps up and does the Sonya Deville, dirty work role.
hmm. All right. You said one more in-ring segment, and I'll be transparent with you. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
Okay, after getting drafted to SmackDown, the OC came out.
right, who I accidentally called the Street Profits before, the OC. Do you know anything about the OC at all?
I recognize all of the wrestlers from other places other than WWE. Most of all, I recognize AJ Styles, but I also recognize Luke Gallows and a little bit of Carla Anderson. I don't know much about Michin other than she was, I think, also in the Women's Royal Rumble. And she was one of those people who, okay, you did all right. You got your name announced, but you weren't involved anywhere near the finish.
Yeah, I didn't
But
know.
AJ Styles is going to be fun.
Yeah,
Maybe AJ Styles becomes the guy who's just really solid and in the title picture. Um, from what they were saying, he had been injured for a while, so this was kind of his return to TV anywhere. So the OC comes out there in the ring, and suddenly the Viking Raiders come out. And so now they're squaring off against the OC in the ring. And AJ says, "You really want to fight this 4-on-3? Well, if that's what you want," and AJ backs away and just sits up on the top turnbuckle and says, OC, do your thing, or whatever his catchphrase is. And the OC and the Viking Raiders, two men and a woman on each side, they duke it out, and the OC wins pretty handily. And then, so kind of a coming out party for the OC and a send off for the Viking Raiders, who, as we found out on Lowdown, are now going over to Raw.
yeah.
But
Um,
hello OC. I'm excited for AJ Styles. I don't know much about the OC and the faction and what they do as a group, but yeah, any time AJ Styles is around, yeah, I want to see that.
yeah. He's AJ Styles, obviously really great, quite frankly, but their gimmick is kind of ripping off their gimmick in Japan. They were
Okay.
in a club called the Club in WWE too, but they were in the Bullet Club in New Japan. And the
Okay.
Bullet Club was loaded with people. You had AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, um, and then they also had people from AEW who you may know, the Young Bucks, who you
Okay.
may have heard Jim Cornette scream he hates them so much, but the Young Bucks are probably the best tag team right now in pro wrestling, one of the best tag teams, you could safely say. So the Young Bucks were part of this Bullet Club.
Okay.
Kenny Omega was part of the Bullet Club. You've got a couple other people that are hopping around, but they had basically it was in the style of NWO kind of rebooted. So they had like,
Okay.
and in Japan they were like they were like heel Americans. So they would come in and cheat and be loud and be disrespectful. And they were like, oh, the white Americans, and you'd boo them, in Japan. So that's what their gimmick was, obnoxious Americans, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where they're from, or that's where the OCs they just kind of kept that gimmick going. And AJ Styles was the IWGP heavyweight champ. So he was the top guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Okay, that makes sense. He's a fantastic in-ring performer and pretty good on the mic too. So yeah, that's going to be fun to see the OC. The only other segment on this show really were some backstage altercations. Bad Bunny and Rey Mysterio giving a pep talk to Zelina. And doing that tie in there, she's got to be the Rey Mysterio of the women's division if she's going to wrestle. She's got to be the miracle worker in a sense. That's pretty standard. And another good use of Rey with the LWO tie-in. I mean that all makes sense having them allied there.
For sure. And yeah, Bad Bunny getting some screen time. And they're probably going to have him in the Puerto Rico show. It looks like he's hosting, which means he's just going to be there.
Apparently wrestling. He's challenged Damian Priest to a match.
Right. And
San Juan street fight.
Oh, my God. We'll see how that turns out. Anytime you see a street fight, I don't know why. I've just seen so many bad ones. I'm like, I hope this is good. Yeah. But San Juan street fight. Wherever they go, it's that city street fight.
They name it that way, yes.
It could be in Pittman, New Jersey. The Pittman street fight.
Sure.
There would never be a Pittman street fight, but
it hasn't been one in a while, I don't think.
Yeah. Any arrest in Pittman in 3 months. But there's always Pittman street fight,
Sure.
Oh man. Vince must have been loving San Juan street fight. That's probably why it is called a street fight. Just because they're in San Juan. Oh man, the alliteration, San Juan street fight. Oh yeah.
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. The San Juan street fight. It kind of gives, I guess, Bad Bunny a chance if there's just kendo sticks and whatever, and they can be they can have a big old throwdown without having to execute too many wrestling moves. But yeah, kudos to Bad Bunny for wanting to get physical and do the athletic stuff. He's been taking his bumps, getting hit, taking maneuvers, taking some high impact stuff. So he's doing the celebrity thing where they're not just there to appear on screen. He's getting physical and taking his lumps. I gotta give some kudos to the guy for doing that.
Yeah, and Bad Bunny is apparently a huge star, which is crazy. But I don't know much about him, but his Spotify views of the amount of people that listen to his music is insane. Mm-hmm. So, let's give it a whirl. I like it. I'm gonna have a positive outlook. I've never really seen him in Puerto Rico, WWE, to try something in Puerto Rico. They have the Puerto Rican people wrestling. They got the LWO. They got Bad Bunny. I don't know why I like it a lot, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And Backlash is usually a throwaway pay-per-view, and now it's something interesting about it. It's like somewhere unique. It's got the Puerto Rican vibe.
Mm-hmm. It'll have some as it's supposed to. It'll have some WrestleMania next chapter things with the Bloodline and Sami and Kevin and Matt Riddle, with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, and again with Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. That's sort of your WrestleMania fallout as well. So Backlash is doing what it's supposed to do as a pay-per-view.
Even for reference, this pay-per-view, the big title is not defended. So we're not even seeing the title be defended. Nope. Let alone it's going to be a squash or he will never lose it here. It's no, he's not even showing up. So that's where Backlash is at. Kind of just a Saturday night special, but yeah. All right, Dom. So we're kind of moseying down here. Anything else you wanted to talk about with SmackDown? We can do some cheap heat now if you want here and talk.
Shinsuke Nakamura interview backstage gets ambushed by Karrion Kross.
Oh,
If this does not end quickly, apparently they will be taking this to Raw, where Shinsuke Nakamura got drafted in the 4th round.
okay.
Okay, right?
Yeah, they've been building up Shinsuke Nakamura versus Karrion Kross. Are they wrestling at Backlash? Is that what we're doing?
That's a good question. I think they announced that it's going to be maybe the main event for the SmackDown before Backlash.
I'm okay with that because they've been building it. At least they're doing like they've been building some sort of rivalry, albeit by very painfully horrible vignettes with Karrion Kross. But it's something. They're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, let's fantasy book the SmackDown before Backlash. We're going to get Shinsuke Nakamura and Karrion Kross. Probably going to be a decent match in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see one more Gunther match before he goes, especially since I don't think the IC belt is being defended at Backlash. So, it's not like he has to save himself for Saturday. He can wrestle Friday. I'd like to see a Gunther send off.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if Gunther can even wrestle. I wonder how the visa situation is with if he wrestles in the U.S. versus wrestling in Puerto Rico because he's not a U.S. citizen. I don't know.
Okay, now Puerto Rico's a U.S. territory.
All right. Yeah, so who knows how that
he
works?
should be able to do that. Oh, yeah, he should be fine for that.
Yeah, I was assuming he's part of a different Puerto Rico is a different country, but that's still up in the air. I think that's still going to a vote. I think they're finally going to decide if they're going to be a state of their own country.
Or because they're just a territory and they've been looking for statehood, but all sorts of weirdness. But yeah, Puerto Rico should be if he's cleared for the U.S., then he should be cleared to travel to Puerto Rico. That's very good. The pay-per-view after Backlash, I believe Triple H was alluding to it, Night of Champions in late May in Saudi Arabia.
Really?
Or am I getting that wrong?
No, you might be right. There is a Night of Champions because there's that new belt.
Yes.
That, I've said this before in plenty of the other shows. I just think you don't like too many belts. I think they have a good number of belts right now. But it feels like, I don't know what this belt's going to be. It's called the Universal No, it's called the International Championship, or I don't know. It's a big black belt.
It's just the WWE. I think it's just the World Heavyweight Championship. It will be the new champion will be crowned May 27th. I'm now reading off of an article on Yahoo. May 27th, 2023 at WWE's Night of Champions Premium Live event.
Mm-hmm.
So they're bringing back the belt and they're going to crown it. And May 27th, that's a milestone day. That will be day number 1,000 in the reign of Roman Reigns.
Oh wow! So they're doing the 1,000 thing.
They're getting them to 1,000, and it's going to be another belt that's going to be awarded on at that pay-per-view.
Right. All right, Dom. So we're kind of we're a little over an hour and 10 minutes here. So let's mosey on down the Italian goodbye here.
Yeah, between this show and the draft, I think we've covered it. Anything else you wanted to talk about in WWE or elsewhere in wrestling land?
Let's do some cheap heat here for the shorts.
Absolutely.
So this is the big news in all of pro wrestling. This guy just won't go away. But CM Punk showed up to the Chicago show. And he was at the Chicago show.
Was that Raw?
At WWE Raw.
Okay.
And all kinds of reports. I mean, he was there. for some reason he was there, just being a weirdo like he is. But he showed up. He apparently went to the back and talked it out with the Miz because he said some horrible stuff on Twitter, which I'm not going to repeat about the
Huh.
Miz.
Huh.
And then he said he's always had trouble with Triple H, and he's apparently gone there to say he was sorry or try to repent or try to make a good relationship with him. And then also other reports that security just asked him to leave, and then he just had to leave. So this guy's been a thorn in my side as a wrestling fan because he does all of the backstage stuff. He does all the confrontational stuff. So he just shows up to Raw and is asked to leave. So, yeah.
I wonder if he was invited. Him being in Chicago is no surprise. I think he's from there. He probably still lives there. So him being in Chicago, okay, makes sense. Yeah, him. Isn't he's out with an injury for AEW, and because they're having an executive fight over there, but he's still under contract to AEW, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still under contract with AEW. There was a massive, unless it's the best work ever, there's a big fist fight between him and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and some of his people, and his dog was involved, and nobody got it on camera somehow, but there was a big fist fight between all of them, and everybody got their belts stripped because they all won belts. They were all stripped by Tony Khan. They were suspended for 2-3 months, and Tony is desperately trying to mend the fence because he's just trying to get some ratings.
Okay.
Bring back CM Punk. So
you've seen CM Punk wrestle in the last year, then over in AEW.
Yeah, he's been really over in AEW, or he was.
Does he still have it in the ring and on the mic?
He's amazing on the mic.
Okay.
I mean, he pissed me off because of the whole thing, and it's just kind of annoying that anywhere he goes, he gets kicked out, and he always thinks he's just like the greatest wrestler of all time. Like, come on, calm down. He's always kind of bothered me, but he was really hot in AEW, and then he was their champ. MJF, or he was their champ. He lost the belt. I got it back, and then he freaked out. So top 10 so I'm pulling up an article.
Okay. Do we want to say more about CM Punk? Is he the kind of guy who, if he does the whole mending of the fences like Cody Rhodes did, is he the kind of guy who you think can come to the WWE and perform well? I mean, Cody's performed well. I think he was pushed a little too far into that inevitability he's going to win at WrestleMania, and then they didn't, which was actually a better story. But I mean, nobody can say that Cody's run in WWE coming back now has been a disappointment. Do you think CM Punk has that in him, that level of performance still, if he mends the fences and his contract is up in AEW and the WWE makes an offer to him?
I'll tell you what. He was really good in AEW. He was wrestling solid matches, and he had great mic skills. I don't really want to see too much of him because he's been really annoying, and he's just involved in so many petty bullshit lawsuits. Like, he sued his good friend after they did a podcast, and then he trashed his good friend, and like he's just a maniac, and he's very straight edge. But it's strange because he has the actions of a drug addict, the way that he acts. You would think that he's intoxicated all the time with the way that he's like fighting random people, and just overall very unprofessional, but also just a douche, you know?
Okay.
That's really, like, I guess the business way to say it's unprofessional. You know, somebody's unprofessional. What you really mean is they're just a douche, you know? So, yeah.
If he shows up on WWE programming, does the crowd cheer though? Does he get a pop if he comes out?
Yeah, for sure. He would get a CM Punk chant, and he's got a killer theme song, and people would freak out. And as Cornette would say, they throw the babies in the air. They'd freak out. So it would be, but who knows? Is the damage done? Triple H does not like him. So
Okay.
Triple H is the creative head there. So he could just be like, yeah, dude, I don't really like you that much. Because he's just had so many interviews where he just completely trashes them. And now he's head
Okay.
creative. So he's probably just like, yeah, this isn't worth my time. And
Okay.
hey, all these pro wrestlers, they all have egos to them. And Triple H is not a person that, Triple H has an ego for sure.
Sure.
He's always had that title, and he's been a pro wrestler for so long. He's a maniac. So I don't know if he's going to do it or not. But one other thing I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
So this is some cheap heat, folks. But Chat GPT listed. Chat GPT is an AI tool, and you can ask it any kind of question, and it gives you some wacko answer. Some people think it's brilliant. It's the next big thing. Some people think, okay, this thing's dumb as hell. So ChatGPT was asked, what is the top 10 pro wrestlers of all time? And this is the list they came up with. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
It's The Rock, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Triple H, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and John Cena. That is the top 10 wrestlers, pro wrestlers of all time, according to Chat GPT. Dom, what do you think of this list?
Very WWE heavy. Very modern TV heavy. I think except for Andre the Giant, everybody's been part of the late 90s to 2000s kind of return of major pro wrestling to network television and primetime television, um, including Ric Flair, who's been around for a while, and Hulk Hogan. But they had a big part in the resurgence in the second half of the 90s, and wrestling even into a little the 2000s. So very WWE heavy there by Chat GPT. Was that part of the prompt, or just Chat GPT assumed that modern WWE wrestling is the only time that wrestlers have been good?
That's the question it had, and then the answer it gave. I drilled down a little further with Chat GPT, try to figure out what the deal is, why it would give
Okay.
such a response. And just from what I could tell, Chat GPT, kind of like a dumb person, didn't really give a lot of flavor. Started to just sort of make things up all the time. I was asking about our own indie league here, our own indie league, NJCW, that we were part of.
Sure.
5-10 years ago, or maybe about 5 years now ago, we were doing this, and it just started making up fairy tales about what we were. It said New York. It was based in New York. It said the Bonsall Street Bomber was Freddie Blassie in a mask, and just a variety of things. ChatGPT just started to make up. So I'm not so sure that your job is in danger. This thing is pretty dumb. But I will have to say the top 10 list wasn't too bad. It was pro wrestlers. I don't agree.
I was just going to say, they didn't make up any pro wrestlers and try to put them on there.
And you could make an argument that maybe, okay, these are the top 10 wrestlers. Maybe there's the most content on the internet about them.
Of course.
That's really why they're putting them up.
Yes.
Or it's probably ripping off like a WWE.com top 10 list. It feels like that could easily be WWE.com. Mm-hmm. But you have no Bruno. You have no Iron Sheik. You have no Roddy Piper. You have no Macho Man. All of these people, I think, would probably go over maybe, let's say, Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold. I feel like Triple H isn't in there. He's not in there. Like, for me, John Cena, I don't really know that he's in the top 10.
These are all modern guys who crossed over into pop culture in some fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Andre the Giant. I mean, so many people, he's beloved for The Princess Bride.
which he's great in.
He's fantastic in The Princess Bride. All the others, Hogan crossed over into pop culture. John Cena's making movies. So's The Rock. Steve Austin even did a little of that, TV shows. Um, Ric Flair, pop culture, big pop culture guy now. In his later years, I mean, the woo, everybody does that. He's showing up, with football teams and basketball teams. They're bringing in Ric Flair for pep talks.
He's
So
been
yeah,
in,
I could see that as the Undertaker also. I mean, guys who've kind of crossed over into the conversation of pop culture with people who aren't like hardcore wrestling fans.
yeah. I think if I would make a top 10 list, you kind of want to spread it out amongst the decades and amongst some things that they brought to the table that were a lot different.
Mm,
So, Cena, I don't really know what he did was that different besides like he was their forever champ there for a while.
yeah.
Roman Reigns not on the list, but maybe one day, as if he does hit that 1,000 day mark, he could make that top 10. But it seemed like they left a lot of historically older wrestlers out. And, it's like if you make the top 10 list, where's Bruno? And you got no women. You got no Fabulous Moolah.
Mm.
You got to say you'd have to spread it out. Maybe you throw one of the women from the modern era in because, I mean, they were revolutionary. There was no women's pro wrestling really that was big, and now you've got some.
Yeah, the both are like Gail Kim.
Yeah, was she the
Like,
TNA?
how important was Gail Kim to like the re-legitimizing of women wrestlers as athletes?
Yeah, she's got to be one of the first ones. Was she TNA, right?
She was in TNA for a while, and really that Impact Wrestling TNA women's division may have influenced WWE to say, okay, we got to make them more than like underwear models. And now you have really good wrestling in the women's division in the WWE. Rhea
Yeah,
Ripley, Charlotte Flair was the match of WrestleMania. You'd be hard pressed to find a men's match as fine as that in years.
right. All right, Dom. We are doing the Italian goodbye right now.
We kind of
Anything
are. We
else?
went ChatGPT. We went CM Punk. What does ChatGPT say about CM Punk? Have you
I don't
done
know.
that, or is that for next week?
That is.
That is next week's Cheap Heat. What does ChatGPT say about CM Punk going to the Chicago show?
Yeah, and we'll have one. Oh my god, that could get so many more views than it should because it's got ChatGPT. It'll hit the algorithm. It's like, oh man, ChatGPT, no matter what, always trending. And then CM Punk, like, oh man, they're always talking about him for all the wrong reasons. Like, bam, we could really hit the intersection there.
I've got your card right here, John. Tick tock.
Right. Speaking of TikTok, we are now live on other platforms. We're expanding, folks, and we've had people watching now on Twitch. So I've got my analytics here, and it shows me when people are tuning in on YouTube, which we've been doing this on YouTube for about 7 months now.
Yeah, end of September. Yeah.
7 months we've been doing this show. So been a lot of fun. We've been doing it on YouTube, but we finally took the plunge here and we're going to expand to other platforms as just sort of makes sense. We're on Twitch now and we're on TikTok. So we're doing all the kids are doing. So TikTok's been a lot of fun. I can see its appeal now at sending out videos to it because the editing software is really good on TikTok. So that's why it's probably a lot of fun. And then, we're going to keep hammering away here at YouTube. That's going to be the end goal. But anything else you wanted to add, Dom?
So the draft is halfway over, and I'm interested to see how it finishes up. Won't be able to watch Monday Night Raw live as it happens, but I'll be looking for clips to see what happens here with the rest of the draft. I think coming up this Friday and then the Backlash pay-per-view. There's going to be a lot to talk about beyond just those wrestling programs.
Perfect. All right, well, folks, this is Don't Bury the Lead. Thank you so much for joining. We'll do this every Friday night, and we're anticipating at least having a show next week for SmackDown and Backlash. So that's what the future looks like. Dom, thanks as always for joining. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.